Okay, here's a typical exam question on factorising cubic equations. So here's a cubic equation with x cubed and some other stuff, and I'm going to try and factorise it fully. And part A of the exam question is to show that x plus 5 is a factor. Now this is super helpful because without part A, I would have to go through the lucky guess process. I would have to lucky guess and put in x equals 1 and put in x equals -1 and put in lots of different things to try and get something that was a factor. I don't have to do that here because it's told me that it's a factor. I just need to prove it. I would then, after my lucky guess, I would get a factorisation into the one I know, which in this case I already know is x plus 5, and a quadratic bit. And then I would factorise that fully by factorising the quadratic bit into two brackets, and then that would give me my three solutions to solve the equation if asked to solve the equation. So how am I going to show that this is a factor? Well, it's dead easy. All I'm going to do is I'm going to sub in x equals -5 into this equation here. Essentially, I'm going to find out what is f of -5. So everywhere you see an x, it turned into a -5. So, for example, I'll have 3 lots of -5 cubed. I'll then add on 10 lots of -5 squared. I'll then take away 27 lots of -5, and I'll then take away 10. So my aim is to show that all of this should work out equal 0, and then I will know that x plus 5 must be a factor, because when you chuck in -5 for x, you get the answer 0. Because it's show that, I've got to do a bit more detail. So negative, 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 that makes a negative. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 3 times 125 is going to be 375 with a negative sign. 5 squared is 25, and that will be positive because two negatives make a positive. So plus 250. 27 times 5, I made myself an easy one here, didn't I? So that's going to be something like 135, and then I'm going to have take away 10. So let's just check. We know we're going to get the answer 0. That's minus 125, that's positive 10, and then it goes away and you end up with the answer 0. So there we go. What do I do to conclude? I have to do this to get the marks. It's to show that I have to conclude, therefore, x plus 5 is a factor. I have to tell the examiner that I know I've done it. Part A, easy. If you want to show x plus 5, you chuck in the opposite -5 and get the answer 0. Part B, follow it through. I know that this equation here looks like x plus 5 times by some other stuff. Now let's have a look. Okay, I needed 3x cubed. How on earth can I get 3x cubed? I'm going to have 3x squared there, so when it's times by x, I get 3x cubed. I needed -10. I'm going to have -2 there, because then 5 times -2 will give me the -10. Now work out the middle number. There's two ways of doing it. One way, x times -2 gives me -2x. If I want to have -27x, I'm going to have -5 there. Why? Because then because then 5 times -5 gives me -25x, and the other -2x comes from here. Another way to look at it, if you have x times -5x, you've got -5x squared. 5 times 3 is 15x squared. So 15x squared take away 5x squared gives me the 10x squared that I wanted there. Okay, so I've lucky guess. In this case, didn't need to, just had to show that this was a correct answer by putting in -5. I factorised into the quadratic, and now I'm going to just factorise that fully in whatever way you normally use to factorise this quadratic section here. So what I do is I just have a look at it and I'm like, right, 3x squared. Hang on, that's x plus 5. So 3x squared is going to obviously be a 3x and an x. There's not other ways of doing it. -2 is going to be -2 times a 1, or -1 times a 2. I need to get negative 5x. That's quite a lot of negative x's, so I'm going to stick minus 2 there. 3 times negative 2 will give me negative 6x. So when I have my positive x there, it'll all work out nicely. And that is my fully factorized equation. I've actually answered this whole question. It may have said, hence, solve the equation equals to 0. If it had said that, I would obviously follow through and say solutions are x equals negative 5. From this one, x equals positive 2, so flipping the sign. And from this one, I would have to have x equals negative a third. So 3 times negative a third, the 3's cancel out, and that's going to work out as minus 1 plus 1, which is 0. And if I was solving it, I'd be solving it equals to 0, which is what I want. So there we go. If you're just asked to factorize the cubic, lucky guess first. Factorize the ones into a quadratic by figuring out what you need. Factorize again to complete it. If they say show that, you don't have to lucky guess, you just literally chuck in the number that you already know is going to give you the answer 0, and then conclude, therefore it's a factor. Happy days.